Talks number 3, and we're gonna talk about alcohol. Now, that doesn't need a whole lot of introduction, so we're gonna start with something else. What is that Illuminati eye on your wall, Gus?
That one.
Exactly.
I got that a special gift from Bente, who is doing an internship with me, as you guys know. So she made a very nice present, and I thought, it's cool just to have that eye there to keep track of me and to watch me. That in style of the Lord of the Rings, right? Right, the eye is
This
always
this
watching.
kind of feels like a hint that you're kind of clumsy with your work and that she always is keeping an eye on you.
Maybe she actually has some superpowers. So actually, this is just something that she can really see. It's possible. So she has separate eyes everywhere, so she can actually see exactly what I'm doing.
You have an
Who
amazing
knows?
backside, Cas. Okay, back to alcohol. So let's start very, very simple. Just to discuss a little bit if we drink and if so, what. And after that, we can have a chat about the science of alcohol. Is it good? Is it bad? For who is it good? For who is it bad? So, Milan, do you drink? And if so, how much, what, when, and why?
I'm very happy that I'm always the first to go. I do drink some alcohol. I would say it's fairly limited. But yeah, I do. I would say a couple drinks per week max. Like there are weeks that I don't drink any alcohol, and there are drinks that I have like a social gathering or something, and I have a couple more. So then the average is like around a couple
Okay,
couple per
so
week, I think.
alcoholics, they always say, "Oh, I drink a couple." So can you specify it a little bit more?
Shit. No, it's fine. I think like on average, then like 2, 3. Yeah.
A week or a day?
Yeah, this is
An
literally like
hour.
the first thing we tell our students. Please specify a unit of time.
No, per week
Okay,
on average.
that's not too bad in my opinion.
Yeah.
Floof, what about you?
Um, so probably less than Milan, surprisingly. No, I think probably average about one drink a week. So like one unit, one glass of wine or something.
Except for barbecues with your boss, Alex.
Exactly. Now the thing with me as well is that I can go like months without drinking, and then maybe there'll be a barbecue at my boss's place, and then there's all the alcohol there.
Okay, and that
I mean,
boss
if
is
it's
still your
free.
boss, or?
He's still my boss. He wasn't my boss then, so
Oh, so it actually worked.
yeah,
You made like you got him drunk as well, or?
exactly. And then I made him give me a position.
Cas, how about you? You also got the same boss, Professor Luc van Loon, drunk to get a job?
No. I didn't make it. I think that's what the females generally do. They feed them drunk and then they get a job. I heard this story honestly before.
And we're cancelled.
Really?
Now, yeah, for me it's really on and off. I had my periods that I drink a lot, not alcoholic, but just you go out in the weekends and stuff. Before I did the PhD, obviously. So I used to drink quite a lot, and now I went on a brief holiday recently. So of course, then you go out and you drink a little bit, or whatever is possible with these COVID times. Before that, actually, for 2 months I didn't drink. I was really watching my diet again and go to the gym, which I'm still doing. But yeah, I mean, on holiday I was a little bit more relaxed about alcohol and diet and stuff. And actually, last Saturday I had a wedding of a good friend of mine. So also there, then you know what happens. So you're gonna drink. So it depends on the period, depends on what's going on. If it's a gathering, generally I do drink, and sometimes it's just a little bit, and sometimes you just get a couple of glasses in. So it depends. It depends really on the situation for me.
Okay, so it sounds like all of you are mostly social drinkers.
Yeah.
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 So
I had a period that I went for like a whiskey every evening, but that period is kind of done now. Not because I don't like it, but I just it's not happening anymore.
You were
Maybe
trying to
evening.
be a sophisticated drinker, but you just gave up.
exactly.
Was it by yourself or with a group of fellow whiskey drinkers?
Well, sometimes even by myself. I was just behind
Okay.
in the evening, just either watching something or just behind my laptop doing whatever, work or just whatever. And then I like a nice glass of whiskey. I thought I was cool, even though nobody else saw it. I thought for myself, actually, it's pretty cool. To have a
Now
glass of
it
whiskey.
equates to the housewife's glass of wine every evening in the bathtub. So
Exactly.
So I
So now you're. Now I'm
probably
curious.
drink the least of us. Well, I'm 100% sure I drink the least of us. But it's quite easy. I just don't like alcohol. I don't like the taste. So I only drink every now and then for a social event, but then still 9 of the 10 social events I don't. Um, but like if a friend brings like a bunch of beers for the whole group and they have one left, then usually they hand it over, and like I don't hate it. I'm not trying to avoid it at all costs, so then I'll have it, but I would never ask for it or grab it myself. For example, drink maybe a glass of champagne with New Year, and maybe once a year, like I'll drink some at drinking games. And in general, I'm way more competitive than is good for me, or especially the people around me. And then especially with drinking games, I actually don't want to drink the alcohol, so I'm even more intense. So people tell me I'm intense during drinking games, but basically my
What a health
drinking is
freak.
the standard is I drink zero unless there's a social event. I'm like, okay, let's not be Mr. Nutrition Tactics for a second. Let's be fun, Jorn. And then it very rapidly turns into, oh, Jorn wants to win at drinking games. And
but I thought the if you win at a drinking game, then you're drunk, right?
no, well, depends on how you want to
You,
play it.
That's how you play the drinking games, Ale.
But
I've
Gus,
heard.
Jorn, I just gonna. I'm not sure. Did you ever had like a real beer? Because I mean, like just a beer, how is supposed to taste. Because I know that you're the guy that always puts salt in everyone's beer. So I'm wondering if those guys always get back to you, just order beers. So while you're there's also one for you. You always got the one with the salt, which obviously must taste nasty. So maybe you never actually had a real beer, and that's why I don't like it. So maybe you should try it once.
that's possible. But yeah, that brings me to the next topic. So you mentioned that you had like your whiskey period. Let's get back to you, Milan. What's your favorite beverage?
Well, I mean, I've also had a time that I would have like very occasionally a whiskey, but usually it was when I was just like Friday or Saturday evening, like chilling on the couch with Lika, and then I thought like, you know what, like I could go like for a really easy sip of whiskey now and then. Um, so yeah, I do prefer that like whiskey, but I also prefer like some special beers now and then, like but just a couple usually.
Okay. Floof.
But my favorite is it's gonna sound really bad, but
Margarita.
like I know Milan thinks it's a margarita. I do love cocktails, and if I had to say my favorite cocktail, it's a margarita. But my favorite alcohol just depends on my mood. Maybe sometimes I really enjoy a beer, sometimes I really enjoy a glass of wine. Just depends on how I'm feeling. So I don't think I'm very picky with that.
Okay. So when's the last time you were drunk, Floof?
How do you classify drunk?
As a funny story happened.
Mm,
Carnival.
I think it was Carnival.
Okay, so
Well, last
for
year,
everyone
right?
who's not
Yeah,
Dutch, can you explain? Well, you're not originally Dutch, so it
no,
will
that's
be
true.
interesting coming from your perspective. Can you explain what Carnival is?
Okay, so my explanation of Carnival. So, yeah, basically, like in the south of the Netherlands, mainly, every year in like February, I think, they have a week of Carnival, or I think it's supposed to technically be like what, the Monday and the Tuesday, I'm not sure. And everyone like just goes out, gets really drunk, drinks lots of beers all day long, and wears weird costumes like a cow suit or something. And they play really terrible music as well. So that's the whole point.
Yeah, it's kind of for the international people. It's kind of like, how do you call it? I forgot. How's the American thing called where you dress up as something scary?
Halloween.
Halloween. So it's like Halloween, but except it's like the whole day and it's like several days long and it's not necessarily spooky. So it's just an over-the-top version of Halloween. All right, so Floof wants to get drunk again. What's the best way to do it? Because you hear all kinds of strategies about getting drunk. People were expecting the science of how alcohol impacts their body. They probably weren't expecting the science of how to get drunk. But how should you get drunk? Like, let's say your goal is to get drunk. Do you drink everything in one go? Do you drink all day long? Should you drink with a straw? Does it matter whether you drink beer or alcohol or shots? Anyone has any ideas? Strategies?
Empty stomach, and as much as in one go as possible.
Why is that?
So you break down alcohol at a rate of about a glass an hour. So let's say if you want to get drunk, I think then the advice should be drink a lot fast. And obviously with the digestion absorption story. So if you have an empty stomach, it goes also faster into your systemic circulation. So if you already have like a lot of, I mean, that's always what I used to do, right? When I didn't want to get drunk, if I went out, just have like a good big meal that I actually have like a solid ground in my stomach. So I wasn't sure that I wasn't getting that drunk that fast. But I think the opposite would be working if you are actually planning to get drunk as fast as possible.
So because I tried that tactic,
Which
and it
one?
got me super nauseous and I puked like all over the place.
So you puked all the food out and then the alcohol was still, and so you still got drunk.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
also an interesting one.
Your puking stories dropped the viewership by the second, Milan. Thank you. Yeah, but it's exactly like Gus says. Like, because your body is kind of breaking down alcohol at a steady state, if you overwhelm your body with a lot of alcohol at once, that alcohol will stay in your body for a long time. But if you drink the same amount of alcohol, let's say those 5 beers not at once, but one every hour, but you also break down one an hour, you never get like a very large amount of alcohol in your blood at the same time. So
Yeah, maybe
honestly,
you're
if you go ahead.
Yeah, maybe be aware there could be some exceptions. So apparently for Milan, it's the opposite. So in this case, it works better to just have food before and then.
Well, Milan has probably the weirdest GI tract of anyone I know. Like, Milan like out eats me by like a factor 100% per meal. But if he has to drink a protein shake, and I think 2 or 3 studies now from our lab, he has consistently been the slowest protein shake drinker in the world. So I don't know how is that possible, how you can eat so much in a meal but struggle with a baby shake.
But at the same time, like, Milan also has the most sensitive stomach. He's also puked in a bunch of studies, hasn't he?
Well, Milan in general is the most sensitive, so I guess we should not pick on him this much. I'll save you, Milan.
No, in my defense, it is the morning, because I'm a terrible like eater or drinker in the morning, and then like during the day, like my hunger just builds up, and then in the evening, if we eat together, Jorn, that's when it all like hunger is peaking.
You're like your body wants to do intermittent fasting, kind of.
Yeah, I guess.
But another thing you hear quite a lot is you shouldn't mix different drinks together. Any truth to that? If so, how does it work? Any ideas?
Yeah, well, yeah, that just makes you think of the one study that I made an infographic for, which was about like they had different groups that were drinking wine or beer or a mix of both. So they actually had one group have wine and then beer, and another group beer and then wine. And then they measured like hangover scale the next day. And it didn't matter what order you drank it in, as long as you had the same like level of drunkenness determined by your percentage of alcohol in your blood, then you had the same. But I don't know how it goes for mixing a whole bunch of other different alcohols that have different other ingredients in them, like cocktails or other things that might obviously have an effect on it as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty jealous of that study. Like, I think the type of research we do is awesome, but if you do a study like that, how good is your story at every party? Like, oh, let's bring the alcohol expert guy in here. And how much fun must those studies be? Maybe not the next day when you're like calling your subject to ask them to rate their hangover, but other than that, everyone loves you.
Yeah, but I think you'd be a bit of a hypocrite if you were like a leader of that study since you don't drink.
Yeah, I'm just not biased. Well, maybe I'm very biased. No, I think I can be honest. I would be very biased. I would love for to show negative effects of alcohol so I can make fun of everyone else.
I actually have some maybe funny story on that kind of topic related. So I hope he's not watching, but I have a good friend. I'm pretty sure he's not watching now.
So if he's
But
not watching, you can mention him by name, right?
no, maybe don't do that. So I can still say, now I meant someone else.
You know that
Years and
the whole viewership is now gonna hunt him down and try to figure out who it is. But go on.
So we went to a party. This is years ago. We were like early 20s, I think, and we were like drinking. You know how it goes. And at some point, he was coming to me with like a really smashed face, and he was like, "Oh man, I'm getting drunk." I said, "Yeah, I think you already kind of are." He's like, "Yeah, maybe you're right. I need to get a bit more sober, so I think I'm gonna switch from beer to wine." And he was serious about it. So then he was drinking wine instead of beer, and he actually thought this is gonna make me more sober instead of getting me more drunk.
Oh my gosh. That's the exact opposite. Especially since wine has like higher percent than beer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's a great prank on your friends. If one of your friends like, oh, I'm drunk, I probably shouldn't drink a whole lot anymore. Then you just say, no, you should have a glass of wine. That will cancel it out. Like
Yeah, exactly.
you can ruin your friends. I think my next topic is perfectly suited for Milan. Milan, does alcohol give you a beer belly?
I feel attacked. I mean, yeah, probably no. But I mean, alcohol is quite like rich in calories. So, I mean, you can gain fat, you can gain just body weight from drinking a lot for sure. But I mean, like you always hear the stories that he has like a beer belly. I think that doesn't make any sense because it's not that the beer calories know like, oh, we're gonna sit in the belly. Like, doesn't make any sense. So I mean, it's just that those guys, well, it's usually guys with beer bellies, that they have like just like bad genetics, and that's where they build up all their fat. So I mean,
It's also girls, Milan, but they just tell you that they're pregnant. That's also good. You just don't know.
then that just reminds me of a story about you, Ale, but maybe we shouldn't go into that one.
That one's pretty funny too.
And you often hear that alcohol gives you like a fatty liver. Is that in any way contributing to a beer belly, or is that a myth? And or does alcohol not contribute to a fatty liver at all in the first place? Anything you know about it, Milan?
I know a bit. Like, okay, for sure, alcohol can contribute to fatty liver because you have a condition, and that is called like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So, I mean, I think generally fatty liver is alcoholic then.
Good deduction.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it for sure has an effect, but I don't think that is related to beer belly at all. I just think that because the liver probably needs to like process all the alcohol or something, like break it down, that then somehow, I'm actually not sure about the mechanism.
Well, we
Maybe,
have Mr. Liver Size over here, Gus. So how big is a healthy liver just in volume, Gus, and weight?
In volume or in kilograms would be about 1.5 kilograms roughly, and volume I generally measure, but that's almost the same. I would generally say what I usually measured in healthy young guys is about 1.8 liters, but generally I think you can safely assume it's about 1.5 kilograms.
So your liver would have to 10x before it gives you a really fat belly, right? So it can't possibly be the liver that creates a beer belly. So in general, like Milan says, a beer belly is just mostly unlucky genetics that you just store a lot of fat there. But that doesn't mean alcohol is harmless because it contains a lot of calories and well, a lot of people unfortunately drink quite a lot of it and then the calories really add on unless you throw up all your food because of it, like Milan.
And that actually reminds me, I have a good friend who
It's
told
funny
me
how all these stories are about all your friends. First of all you guys do is work. You don't have any friends, so I know all these stories are about you. But go on.
No, they're about you, Jorn.
yeah,
You
this
just
is about
don't wanna
my
say
good
it.
friend.
I'm your
Jorn.
boss. I'm not your friend.
Sure. But
Same
anyways,
word.
so my friend, she told me recently that she like wanted to lose some weight and get fit, and she wasn't sure like where her fat was coming from, because she doesn't eat too much, right? And so I told her like, okay, like send me a picture of everything that you eat, and she was right. She doesn't actually eat that much. But then I asked her like, what about your alcohol intake? And she's like, oh shit, alcohol has calories, and she obviously drinks a lot. So yeah, problem, or what's it called? Yeah, I solved the mystery.
Okay, let's cover a few questions by chat. Um, the first asked about that study you mentioned about the hangovers the next morning. And Favored asked, is that study not hard because everyone like hangovers are so subjective? So can you really compare those treatments? How would you answer that, Floof?
Yeah, well, so it is subjective, and I think, yeah, that's why you also have like you randomize the people into the different groups, and if your sample size isn't just ridiculously small, then you should have the natural variation between the people anyways. So yeah, that should kind of cancel it out, if you know
So
what I
I
mean.
don't know from top of by heart, um, but was it not crossover or?
Oh yeah,
I
no,
think
you're
it
right,
was.
actually.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
can you briefly cover what crossover is and why it matters in this situation?
yeah. So what they did, okay, no, you're absolutely right. So the four groups, it was actually the same people in each group, but that they all underwent the different interventions. So all let's say they had 10 people. They all drank the beer one time, drank the wine alone one time, and then like that. So in that sense, you have the same person evaluating their own hungoverness.
Yeah, so you really compare how drunk do you get with vodka and how drunk do you get with wine and how drunk do you get with beer and compare that and not how drunk does Kaz get with beer versus how drunk does Milan get with wine. Okay, next question from S. Cosby. Is it a myth that you can cure a hangover or at least improve it by drinking a glass of alcohol the morning of a hangover? Anyone know whether that's true or not, and if so, how it's supposed to work?
And maybe it helps with like a headache, just because you don't feel it anymore. No,
Yeah.
Out of experience, it does work that way, I think.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you're not curing the hangover, you're just delaying it because you'll get drunk again, and then when you're like finally sobering up, you'll just feel it again.
I remember reading something about it a long time ago, and I forgot all the details. but they went in all kind of very complex theories of how like a metabolite of alcohol is kind of what's causing the headache, and how drinking alcohol, then first you're focusing on metabolizing that, and therefore the metabolite is less influential at the moment. So I forgot all the details of whether or not it works. In general, my recommendation is don't try it. Don't just stop. You drank enough. Just stop. Right. So next question is, alcohol doesn't get stored in the body. So is it true that when you consume alcohol, that's like the first thing you metabolize, and therefore the other nutrients, like carbohydrates and fat that's available, those are stored as fat? I see the floof disagreeing. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, so I think it just depends on how many calories you're intaking versus how much calories you're expending, right? Just the same with any, like, regardless of alcohol, if you eat too much, it doesn't matter if it's from fat or protein or carbs, you're going to store some of that as fat. And if you eat too little, even if it's pure fat or pure carbs, you're going to lose weight. So with alcohol, it's the same, right?
Yeah. So
that's a good point.
It is true that there's like a preferential order of which nutrient you use for energy. So you ideally use, well, it depends on a lot of things, but alcohol, ideally you metabolize that for the other nutrients. So yes, you could argue that under conditions where you're metabolizing alcohol, the other ones are more likely to end up as fat. But whether you consume 500 calories as alcohol or 500 calories as carbohydrate, the net effect on fat mass would be exactly the same. In the end, it's just the calories that matter. So I guess the good news is that calorie for calorie, fat is not worse for fat mass than any other calorie.
No, I think it is good to mention, because it is correct that the alcohol you can't store it, and then you have these guys that you see often. They go out, they drink a lot of alcohol, and then they go to kind of a kebab place or something to eat also a lot of food, and that's then. I mean, if you're worried about gaining weight and stuff, and you already had like a lot of meals, and you're maybe already in energy balance, and probably you are if you drink a lot of alcohol, because it can actually add up a lot in calories. That's maybe not a smart thing to do.
So we discussed the effect of alcohol on fat mass. What about the other side of the coin? What about muscle mass? So it's quite common that you hear that athletes should avoid alcohol. Is there any truth to that? Is alcohol indeed very bad? Like, because basically for fat mass we said it's calories, whether you have carbohydrates or fat or alcohol, it's all the same. So for muscle, do calories from alcohol, are they worse for muscle mass than any other calories, or does it also not really matter?
Yeah, so alcohol is bad for muscle mass. I mean, if you look at it from a perspective from research that has shown both in rodents and also in humans, if you drink, I mean, you have to drink quite a bit of alcohol, but that's what typically guys or girls would do if they go out. Then it does actually lower muscle protein synthesis rates. It does do that apparently via the mTOR pathway. Not really here to go into a lot of detail, but that's one of the mechanisms why it seems to impair it. It also lowers, at least if you drink again quite a bit of alcohol, can lower your testosterone level. In males, actually, that's maybe important to mention here. In females, I think it's a bit less clear what the effects are, and doesn't seem to have such an effect. But anyways, those are all important factors, of course, for muscle health and muscle mass. So if you are drinking a lot, you will at the end up with lower muscle mass, as if you wouldn't drink for a long period of time, because you continuously have a lower muscle protein synthesis response, essentially. So in that way, yes, if you are a bit of a serious drinker, and also for chronically, that could impact your muscle mass negatively.
And what if you're a more casual drinker that maybe enjoys a glass of wine every day, maybe just one glass of wine every day?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
think then you don't have to worry that much. I think it's serious. It gets more serious if you drink serious amounts of alcohol on a daily basis. And that would have an acute effect if you would drink like several beverages. So I wouldn't say one or two wines or maybe glasses of beer. That shouldn't be such an issue. But if it's like, let's say about 8, 10, 12 glasses of alcohol, then that could have an effect on lowering your muscle protein synthetic response
and
and also your testosterone levels and stuff.
a lot of young guys, let's say age 21, that's like an age where you go out a lot, and then maybe once a week or maybe twice a week you drink like 10 drinks, but also you want to be like the man at parties while going out, so maybe you work out 3-4 times a week. Does 1 or 2 nights, well, let's keep it at one, there's one night of, let's say, 12 beers, how bad is that effect? Would you say like, yeah, it will have a negative effect, but compared to training really well and your overall caloric balance, I wouldn't worry too much? Like how bad do you feel alcohol, like one night of alcohol is?
I mean, you can still grow muscle, obviously, if the rest of the week you are fine and your training and your diet is on point, you have enough protein intake, etc. You can still grow muscle and strength, definitely. Um, it is the case if you would drink a lot, you would have a small acute effect that's just lowering your progression in a way. But it's not to say, I mean, if you're just what you say, if you just want to have the benefits of both, you want to gain some muscle, you want to be strong, and you want to be able to drink alcohol one day a week in the weekend, yeah, you can do that because you can still grow muscle, etc. If you would be a serious bodybuilder or whatever, powerlifter that's really focusing just on getting as much muscle or strength as possible, then I wouldn't recommend to do it. But it's a bit of the balance that I think you have to create for yourself. What do you want in life? What do you want to achieve? And yes, it is possible to get the benefits of both, but it depends on what your goal is at the end.
Yeah. So yeah, doing like fitness training, trying to improve your physique is of course a bit different than a lot of other sports that are more performance based, where like it matters what you do right now and not, oh, I've been training 3 times a week, so my muscle protein synthesis is elevated. So are you guys aware of research of more acute effects of alcohol? Like, so Milan, you have an athletic background, right?
You're saying it as if I'm not athletic at this moment.
No, I mean like,
I think his background is just like see like just a wall and a fridge. I don't think he's that athletic.
Full of protein.
well, he usually sprints to the fridge. But like, what did you do? Like, which type of sports?
Yeah, like I did athletics,
Yeah,
so
but I mean
track
like
and
which?
field.
Yeah.
So I did a long time. I did like throwing, so javelin, discus, shot put, and then also quite some time I did a lot of sprinting.
So I don't know. Maybe you have a lot of experience. I wouldn't be surprised. But how bad do you think drinking alcohol maybe the night before training or even a competition? I don't know if you did competitions. How bad would that be? Or let's say you have 5 drinks just before your competition or just before practice. Do you feel that would influence your skills slash performance, or are the effects of alcohol more like a long-term negative effect?
It's actually funny that you asked me that because when I was like around 16, when I was actually like high level, especially at discus, I won like the national championship, and I was asked to train with like a regional coach that was like pretty high, like Dutch coach, whatever. And then I was like, of course, I want to train. But then it was like Sunday morning, at like 9 or something, and it was in Rotterdam, which was also like a whole ride from where I lived back then. So yeah, obviously my parents had to drive me each Sunday morning, but that was also around the time that I like started going out on a Saturday evening. And then on Sunday morning, I would just go there and to like train with a lot of like the best people of the country. But yeah, I can say that it probably affects your training session if you drink too much.
I'm so happy with this story because, dear listeners, now you see what happens if someone is a national champion. They start drinking and then they end up as a pathetic PhD student. So don't drink, avoid it, or you end up like Milan. But like, how much were you drinking? Were you like drinking 3 glasses, 5 glasses, 10 glasses? Because I think one of the most important messages of this show will be like it's very clearly a dose response with alcohol. We already discussed that because you break down like 1 drink per hour, and that's depends on your body size. So if you're like a petite lady, it's a little bit less. But therefore, if you drink a lot in a short period, it's just like each additional drink hits exponentially harder than the previous one. So there's a big difference between drinking 1 glass, 5 glasses, and 10 glasses. So what numbers were we talking about where you didn't feel so well the next day?
Yeah, I mean, back then it was pretty bad. I would say like around 10, like on an evening.
Little
And it was like long.
16-year-old Milan
Yeah,
thinking he was the man in nightlife.
So when you say 10, you mean like units or pints or?
10 liters. No.
I would have believed you.
No. Like just like 10 beers. But then like around that age, we would also like start quite early and then like go until like way too late in the night. And
So
then,
basically,
like,
you
it
did
also
everything
adds up.
wrong you could possibly do wrong for your athletic career.
For sure. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. But I mean, that saved me from a career in a sport that there's no money.
Yeah, so you went into research.
Yeah, where there's also no money.
Exactly.
Well, maybe one day you'll make the nutrition tactics money, Milan.
Yeah.
And but that's all like the night before. So I wonder, like hangovers, like it's very depends on the person, I guess. But in a lot of groups, if you have like a hangover and you text your buddies like, "Oh, I'm so hangover," you're kind of cool, right? Like, yeah, I was drinking a lot yesterday. So I wonder, feeling crappy the next day, including at practice, like obviously hangovers is a real physiological phenomenon, but I wonder how much of your decreased performance is placebo, that you're like, oh, I'm supposed to feel bad. And maybe your head hurts, like maybe you have a hangover, but does it actually mean you cannot perform as well? Like I have no clue because my hangover experience is close to 0 because I'm a professional. But I just wonder what it is.
I mean, it could be, but yeah, I still think that drinking alcohol then maybe like just before will for sure be bad. And I think there's also like a study on this. I think even on sprint performance and like multiple distances, and I think like the conclusion was that there was like alcohol right before sprinting is bad for performance, and it's dose dependent. So like every beer you drink more, you will just be slower.
Yeah, like not that surprising, I guess. Like everyone, I guess a lot of viewers are like hoping we have the best evidence way of justifying their alcohol use, but the answer is just the less you take, the better it is. Like you don't have to worry. Like there is like a pretty nice study, like a 10-week study where subjects do HIIT interval training for 10 weeks, and then on average subjects drink 2 to 3 glasses of alcohol, and you don't really see a negative impact on body composition. 2 or 3 glasses per day even, so that's quite a lot over a whole week over the whole week, or especially over the 10-week period. So if you keep it at 2 to 3 glasses, the effects seem to be relatively minimal. But again, keep in mind that each additional glass hits exponentially harder. So I would be very skeptical or just not recommend people to go above 3. But up to 3 is really not that bad.
I mean, maybe also good to mention that what you also said, Cas, about like alcohol lowering protein synthesis. I think like the only human study I know, they gave like 12 drinks, and then yeah, obviously they saw like protein synthesis a bit down, and I think you could even like counteract it a bit by eating protein. But yeah, that is like 12 drinks, and yeah, I'm not really sure how large the effect is percentage wise, but yeah, I can imagine that a couple drinks would not do that much.
You mean for protein synthesis or more for exercise, subsequent exercise performance?
Yeah,
Or
for
both of
protein
it?
synthesis as well, because Jorn just said about like the body composition. So I mean, yeah, like two, three, yeah, 2, 3 per day. Like I really wouldn't recommend, but still, like yeah, it doesn't surprise me if you look at those studies. You see the negative effects generally with pretty high doses.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but also at the same time, with the study that you mentioned about the HIIT training, were these people who were already doing HIIT training, or was that kind of a new thing? I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, no, that was a new thing for them, but it was compared to a control group who so the control group, so all subjects started doing HIIT training. No, that's I'm no. Yeah, it was a big study, so I'm confusing all the groups. But no, there was one group who didn't do any HIIT training, and then you had 4 groups who. So that was the real control group, and then you had 4 groups, of which some drink and some didn't drink, but they all did HIIT. And all the groups that started doing HIIT training improved in body composition, and the alcohol didn't make the improvements significantly worse. So again, that suggests that alcohol doesn't, that moderate alcohol intake doesn't drastically impact the effect of exercise. Again, very likely dose dependent. And also, I don't know if this is what you were hinting at, but if people start exercising, the effect of exercise is, of course, very strong. So maybe the potential negative effects of alcohol are just not strong enough to do something against that. If you're a little bit higher level athlete, maybe there the relative damage is much more because you basically need to optimize everything, your nutrition, your sleep, everything to get to the next level. And there maybe alcohol just prevents that from happening. That's possible. But my assumption is that most people who are even interested in drinking, casual alcohol are not the elite athletes anyway, other than our national champion Milan, who ruined his career. Another question by favorite, who asked if there's like a best type of alcohol. If you, kind of the scenario we discussed earlier, you train like a couple times a week, but you want to go out like once a week, just have a bit of fun, not like be a slave of bodybuilding, so to speak. Is there like a type of alcohol that we recommend, like beer, wine, or is it just about the calories? He's basically asking. So if I take like hard liquor, I basically just get alcohol without all the extra calories. Would that be better for body composition? What do you think, Cas?
Yeah, I would do that. If you're concerned about body composition, I would go with like a spirit, for example, or like a shot. And what I generally myself actually prefer is to go with something like rum with Diet Coke. So then you still have alcohol and quite a lot of it, because obviously in rum there's a serious amount of alcohol, but it's like in terms of the calories, you're better off when if you would compare with like a beer or even like a cocktail, which generally has a lot of calories, depending on what type of cocktail you get, of course, but a lot of sugary stuff and stuff in there. But yeah, from body composition perspective, I would always go with like something like a spirit or like rum, for example. I think sherry even has like very low amounts of calories. I once looked that up.
Tequila?
white wine, yeah, exactly, or some like dry wine or something if you really don't like spirits. But yeah, so yeah, you have like the better options for body composition perspective. So that's why I would like try to go with rum if I'm out and
I
so on.
love how you looked up the caloric content of all
Yeah,
these
of course. I
alcohols.
mean, I'm a little bit concerned about the physique.
No, but it's like that's perfect. Like everyone has their own like goals. Some people don't care about nutrition at all. Other people are pro bodybuilders and everything matters. Other people are like casually doing fitness and want to have like one fun day a week, but just minimize the damage. So
And
that's
I
good.
gotta say, I'm not sponsored by the rum like the rum industry or something.
But if they
Just
want to
just
sponsor
no
Cos, they
conflict of
can reach
interest.
out to his manager, me.
If their numbers are increasing now with sales, I expect to get something from them. We'll see what happens.
Um, how about sleep? So something you hear quite a lot is people just taking like some alcohol, just one glass of alcohol before bed to fall asleep easier. Does that work? Does any of you do it? Perhaps I don't think so, based on what you said earlier. Anyone knows?
Like, I know that previously I thought that you know, like slept better or whatever, or it feels like you fall asleep faster when you had drinks. But I'm pretty sure that eventually you still sleep less because you often like wake up during the night or something. And I think even also your sleep quality is actually lower. And I think like when once I realized it, I think I also saw like a study on this, or maybe we discussed it, Jorn. And I think like I actually noticed it after a like social event, maybe like a barbecue or something with the lab. I think I actually noticed it the next day. Like, yeah, I think I actually slept pretty bad. Um, so I think there is some data on that.
I don't
It's
know
kind of
why
funny
you guys
because
keep making fun of barbecues of our lab, like everyone is drunk. Like, just for any people from any other labs, there are professional people at this lab, like me. Uh, yeah, but we
no,
also
but
have
it's funny
these people.
because it's true as you say, Milan and Jorn. Because a lot of people I always heard they told me like, okay, if I drink a lot of alcohol, I sleep very good, and I was like, I never felt that way. I think I'm the exception. I always knew if I had a lot of alcohol, I was like, oh fuck, this will ruin my sleep because I always wake up. Obviously, you have to go to the toilet a zillion times a night, so you already wake up by that from that perspective. But also, I never had any good night of sleep.
I think, I don't know if this is true, but I think it's because people are so incredibly bad at standardizing things that they just come to completely the wrong conclusion. So in science, standardization is you keep everything the same. So, and then you manipulate one thing, like some dietary intervention, and then whatever happens can only be caused by the one thing you changed, like your intervention. But when do people typically drink a lot? When they stay up late. So then when they go to bed, kind of drunk, yeah, oh, you fall asleep easily. No surprise. So it seems like you fell asleep very easily. You have that association in your mind. Like, oh yeah, I drunk and I never lay awake for an hour when I'm drunk. Yeah, that's because it's late. Well, I'm not saying it is because of that, but I just think it makes sense that when you're drunk, it's late. You fall asleep easy, and people just have that association. The fact that their total sleep duration is, for example, I don't know if this number is true, is 30 minutes less. They're not really aware of that, or that they wake up for 20 times for like 2 seconds, like these micro wake up sessions. You don't even remember those. So I think it's just a poor standardization resulting in incorrect conclusions. But I don't know. Maybe one more thing to cover. What about alcohol and just overall health? I've heard everything. I've heard people say, well, one glass of alcohol is actually very good against heart disease. And then on the other side of the spectrum is like, no, alcohol just drastically improves cancer risk. Is one of the two right? Somewhere in between? Any clues?
Yeah, well, for the whole idea that a glass of red wine improves, for example, your heart health. I think so. You can find a study that says that, like, oh yeah, it will improve your heart health, and then you can also find a study that says actually no, it doesn't. And the thing is, they're looking at certain compounds within it, within the wine that may act as an antioxidant, for example. But then if you compare that, for example, to eating blueberries, it's probably better to eat the blueberries than to drink the wine, because then you're also getting alcohol along with the antioxidants. So I personally don't think that that an amount of alcohol is good for your health, any amount. But with regards to specific studies about cancer risk and stuff, I'm not so sure.
Cos, Milan, any clues? Have you read anything about it?
No, generally I would agree with what Alice says. I mean, I think if you're really concerned about health, I would not recommend drinking alcohol at all. Again, I don't really think if you do it in moderate amounts, occasionally it's that detrimental, but I don't really see. And I mean, I didn't read all the papers in this kind of topic. I have to admit that, of course, but I don't really see any evidence, as far as what I know, that drinking a little bit of alcohol is actually better for your health than if you wouldn't drink any alcohol. So if you are concerned with your health, I would also say, if you really are very concerned about it, I wouldn't drink any alcohol. But yeah, that's again kind of what's your goal in life and what do you want to do.
Yeah. So my background originally, my master's was in straight up nutrition, and straight up nutritionists, they love nutritional epidemiology. So I got tons and tons of that, and all the teachers did research in that, and they did quite a lot of research on alcohol intake and heart disease and cancer risk. And it's just quite clear that alcohol intake increases cancer risk, but again, it's very dose response. Like the first 3 glasses a day, they don't do that much, but then after it seems to exponentially go up. So again, I think that's just the overall lesson of the show. Alcohol, it's just not good for overall health, performance, for all those things. However, you don't have to be too afraid of it. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm going to train tomorrow, so I better not drink a glass of alcohol in 24 hours before or after that training, or I waste all the effect of training. Or if I drink 1 glass of wine, I waste 2 days of dieting. It's nowhere near as bad as that. And in fact, like 1 or 2, maybe even 3 glasses of alcohol a day, it's not like you're risking your life, so to speak. And it's not like, oh, that is definitely undermining all my good efforts, my training, sleeping, nutrition. I would say 3 glasses a day is quite a bit, and less would be ideal. But don't be too afraid of it. It's like if a glass of wine or 2 a day gives you joy in life, you don't have to be a nutrition slave, so to speak. It just means that you have to dial in everything else a little bit more.
So Jorn,
Yeah.
so it's not true that 20 glasses of alcohol a day keeps the doctor away. That's not true.
Well, it rhymes, so it can be coincidence.
Okay.
Depends on the alcohol.
So I don't have a whole lot of more stuff about alcohol that I know, or funny myths I know. Any of you have any other topic to suggest? Maybe funny story about your friends?
Probably Ale has a lot of those stories.
Yeah, just because I have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Okay, then I think we're pretty much done here. Yeah, thank you guys for joining for another episode. And I'll see you probably somewhere next month. And Is it not true that we have another barbecue planned? I know at some point we did, but then I don't know with the whole COVID situation if it's still ongoing. But maybe then we'll have some more alcohol stories based on what I've heard. So when is our barbecue?
Next
Yep.
month, I think.
2 planned
Early
even.
September, right? Yeah, I think in 3 weeks or something.
Well,
Yeah, we have 2 planned. Milan is right.
right.
One with the
Yeah.
department, human biology, and one with the research group.
so
Okay, separate
if the barbecue study gets accepted, I'm also having a barbecue for the whole group. That will take a while, but that might be a day where I get drunk,
Ooh.
depending on where that paper gets accepted, because that's just the coolest paper ever. But hey, I'm biased. Hey,
So maybe then you get your first real beer, and then you really enjoy it, and then you actually get drunk.
yeah,
That's
can you
possible.
protect my beer that I don't, that
I
no
will.
one throws any
I will
salt
get one
in it?
from a can. I will buy one from a can from the supermarket, so just to be sure that there's no salt, unless they know I'm gonna buy that can, and probably the manufacturers will like, that's from yours, just put some extra salt in it. You never know. But I'll try to get like a good beer for you.
Thanks, buddy. Okay, guys, thanks to all the viewers, and I'll see you next time.